Wandering round, wonder why I'm sensitive to these sounds. Plant down and lotus in a tempted ground. Knowing if I fail to lift the veil, I'm hellbound. Journey through the fate of all the hate I found. Done laying out the layman's for these lames, big clowns. We can still throw down pound for pound if you choose to drag my name through the mud with no bounds. Scars go deep, but the passion can shift. Trying to find a balance between anger and bliss. Searching for my purpose when success is a myth. I thought I knew the gist of the plot, but it came with a twist. Had it all mapped out, but none of the pieces fit. Abandonment issues got me doing the split. Realizing I didn't really need what I wish. Got sick of getting tricked into giving the devil a kiss. Welcome to the side of hell. They got me under respect. Story to tell as soon as I break out of this shell. Welcome to the side of hell.
Good evening, afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining Portal to the Paranormal podcast. I'm your host, Nando. I hope everyone is doing well. Just a quick sorry. We went live about 5 minutes ago, and for some reason, the whole stream crashed, so I've just done a new one. I hope everyone can see me and hear me okay. We've got two great guests on. We've had these ladies on in the past as their own identity in the paranormal, but we're bringing them on today as a joint partnership. Dr. Kris Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal and Ghost Biker Explorations Miranda Young. So I think I've got the year right. If I'm wrong, they're going to tell me. But in 2021, they did a joint partnership where they now run the historic Scott County Jail in Huntsville, Tennessee. Location. What I will do while I'm talking is show you guys some pictures. So that's the outside of the actual jail. Jail was built in 1904. One of the oldest buildings in Scott County. In 1922, a third floor was added for maximum security inmates. The doors closed in 2008, and in 2021, as I mentioned, Miranda and Kris took over and run the location. So tonight we're going to be talking about the location's history. As always, we're going to bring some paranormal stuff into it as well. And talk about the kind of evidence that they've captured. I've got a great video that I watched today from the jail and just find out a bit more about the history there. So what I'll do is bring Kris and Miranda on. Evening, ladies.
Hey, Nando.
Okay?
Hey.
Again, thank you very much for joining tonight. I've been looking forward to this one because we're going to be getting into the history of the Scott County Jail. Just before we start, Daniel's in the room. Hey, Dan. And hey, Abby. Again, guys, sorry about the little mishap that we just had. But if you want to ask any questions to Miranda or Kris, please do ask and we'll try and get your questions answered. So yeah, as I was just saying, we're just touching base on the history, just a little bit of the history of the historic Scott County Jail. You guys took it over in 2021. Firstly, how did that come about for you? Was it something you were looking at doing before, or was it an opportunity that was handed to you to do this venture?
Well, Miranda and I met through the paranormal. Obviously, we're both paranormal investigators. I'm with Soul Sisters and Miranda's with Ghost Biker. And we became fast friends about 6-7 years ago now. And we had always talked about joining forces to form a partnership to open a business, what we call a museum, and what we wanted to do was a paranormal research location. And through a series of events, mainly driven by COVID, Miranda needed to move back up here. This is her hometown where she's from. Her family can trace its lineage back to the Revolutionary War. And so she knew that this jail was vacant, and it had been vacant since 2008. And it's owned by the town of Huntsville. And so we put together a business plan. We worked for about a month on a business plan, really trying to decide what we wanted to do, what we wanted to call our business and all of that. And so we approached the mayor of the town of Huntsville. We told him what we would like to do with the building if he'd allow us to do it. So we had a great meeting with him, Mayor Jeffers, and then we met met with the alderman of the town, who's the lead counsel for the town, and it was a unanimous vote to allow us to install what we call a historic museum, but as well as a paranormal research location.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we went so far as to really develop our plan very deeply before we went in to meet with everyone, everything from going ahead and having the logo design, having items in the gift shop design. We really wanted to show that we were serious when it came to our plan of what we wanted to do, and really show that there was an opportunity to not only open the location for the locals and really have a very cool history museum, but also show that people from around the country would travel here to investigate for the paranormal, but also for the unique and interesting history as well. Mm-hmm. And after we showed it to them, they were really excited about it. And so then at that point it became, okay, now we got to make this happen. So
yeah.
Wow. And as we said, so you officially opened the doors in 2021.
Correct.
Yes.
You know, and you can see through the Facebook page, it's gone from leaps to bounds. It's been great to see the growth and what you guys have done with it. But with the history, so we know it was built in 1904. Mm-hmm. With the history of it, what kind of prisoners at the time would they have housed? Because I know it could have housed around 50 inmates. Mm-hmm. Was that specific inmates, or was it pretty much anyone was just thrown in there?
Well, we're a small county jail. So to your point, we held about 50 inmates. Up until the 1970s, the jailer and his family actually lived on site. So we would be sitting in what would have been their living room, essentially, up until the 1970s. After that, the jailer moved off site. And then these offices here beside us really became cells and administration offices. So the inmates really ran the gamut from, drunk and disorderly to domestic violence. And then our maximum security cell would have held rapists and murderers and more violent offenders, not for a long period of time, but basically holding them while they were awaiting their day in court, or if they were waiting to be transferred to another larger maximum security prison, such as Brushy Mountain or Morgan State Correctional Facility.
Yeah, and so a lot of our earliest inmates from around 1904 up until about the 60s were primarily moonshiners. That was a huge industry here in the South, especially here in this area. And so we did house both men and women. And so really primarily early on, now we did have, the murderers and the hardened criminals, but a lot of them earlier on up until about the 60s was primarily moonshiners.
Wow, brilliant. And you're saying about the different floors. In 1922, they added the third floor where they housed the maximum security inmates. So, as you were saying, the murderers, the rapists. When we talk about spirits from the past on, they tend to, sometimes we say they'll go back to a specific location where they feel, where they want to be. Going to that third floor, do you feel a different vibe to the other floors you have there, knowing that, the history there? Is there sort of a different vibe when you walk into it?
There really is. You can feel some different energies up there. Now, as Miranda said, we had both men and women. So we had a women's cell on our second floor and then a women's cell on the third floor. So even between the men and the women's cell, you get kind of a different feel. And the responses are different depending if you're a male team or a female team or a co-ed team. So some of the responses that we're getting on the third floor, paranormally speaking, are much different than what we get on the second floor.
Yeah, and that second floor, and of course, the activity really seems to change depending on the time of year, the team that's in. When people ask us what's your most haunted area or the creepiest area, by far, personally myself, I feel like the second floor is definitely creepier, even though that is our trustee level. Prior to 1922, that would have been maximum security. So they would have held some of those more hardened criminals on that second floor earlier on. But as Kris said, the vibe does kind of change. But to me, that second floor, just because it's kind of darker, it's more dorm style type cells. You see sometimes more shadow figures, and it's just a different kind of activity.
No, that's brilliant. And with the location, I know because I watch a lot of your stuff, and and I know that you two. We were saying in the background about doing things on your own and staying in a haunted location. That's a bit out of my comfort zone, but I know sometimes with different schedules that you both have, you're sometimes in the jailhouse on your own, like literally 3 floors, just you on your own. Brave ladies, but do you find, like, what's it, 2021? What, coming on 3 years now? 4 years? 3 years. Have you found that, like, personalities with these spirits, like, do they interact with you differently because you're 2 different people? Do you pick up, like, one spirit will interact with you more, Kris, than with Miranda? Do you find a difference there?
Actually, vice versa. I think they interact more with Miranda. And I think that's because, like I said before, Miranda can trace her lines back to the Revolutionary War in this county. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of the spirits that are here are somehow weirdly related to her. So I think because she's local, she has that Tennessee accent, she can kind of speak the language of Tennessee, if you will. I think they interact with her a little bit more. They're more comfortable with her. But that's not to say that I've definitely had experiences here.
Yes.
There's a few months ago, I was upstairs opening up, and I was turning on the lights and opening the cells and such. And I had a cup of coffee with me because I always have my coffee with me. And so I walked upstairs, and it was a Sunday morning. I'll never forget it. And I just said, "Good morning. Anybody want a cup of coffee?" And this man's voice right beside me says, "I do." Like, okay, that just happened. So I'm going to leave this cup here for you for the day, and I'm going to go downstairs.
The shadow figure.
Yeah, and I've seen shadow figures up on the 3rd floor as well. So we get different responses. But like I said, I think Miranda has a different rapport with them just because she's local.
And that does make a difference, kind of jokingly talking about, speaking Tennessee. I mean, even just Scott County in and of itself has its own language and accent and own, vernacular really here just in this area. And it is something that we do always put out there to the community, is the fact that most people in this county can trace somebody in their family that has served here at the jail. And by served, they either served as one of the officials or one of the jailers or the guards, or they served time. And then in a few instances, both. And so, I definitely have, since I've been doing this, I've always been big on genealogy and tracing my roots. And I have actually found that I am related to some of the people who were victims of some of the crimes, and then some of the people who were the criminals, and then also some of them who did serve in law enforcement here. We are a very small rural community, and that tends to be the case with a lot of folks. But to answer your question, we seem to get a lot of different activity between the 2 of us. And really, it's kind of rare that we're actually both in here at the same time.
And one of the interesting things that we started picking up on is, we allow obviously paranormal teams to come in and investigate. And most of the time I work the days, Miranda works the nights. It's just, I'm a morning person. She's a night person. And so it just kind of works out that way. But there are times when.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard it too.
I don't know if y'all heard that. There was like a big, sound like a cell door.
Well, I've got to say, a few times when you're talking, behind you, Miranda, I don't know, it's like a corridor, is that right?
Yes.
Like there's something, like twice now, like a shadow figure moving in the background there. I don't know if it's me or if it's like a lighting, so I've not said anything, but I'm listening, but I'm watching in the back, and I'm like,
always watch, because there's always stuff that happens, and that was loud.
Yeah, we'll have to go back and listen.
I will get a clip. I will get a clip of that afterwards, and then I'll send it on to you guys if I can catch it. But I'm pretty sure, I think.
Yes, but as you were saying, Kris, sorry about that.
Sorry,
no worries.
Maria's saying as well, already seen that, Nando. So she's seen it as well. So there we go. Anyway, sorry, Kris. I didn't mean to.
No worries. No, hey, listen, something behind me, you just shout it out. Go for it. But what's interesting is, like I said, we had paranormal teams here, and Miranda works the day or night. Primarily, I work the day. And so what we've started to do is we really communicate with our spirits. Like in the morning, I'll come in. Good morning. How's everybody doing? It's going to be me here today. When Miranda comes in, she talks to them about the teams that are coming in during the night to do the investigation. So she'll go up and have a conversation and say, hey, this is such and such team coming in tonight. It's going to be this many guys, and this many, da, da. And so there are certain times when I work the nights when Miranda's not here. And a couple of those times I'll do the same thing. I'll walk up and just say, hey, this is the team that's coming up. But the team seem to have different experiences when I do that. So finally, I got to the point where I said, if I'm working an investigation, I'm going to call Miranda and put her on speaker. And I take the phone up and Miranda talks to him through the speakerphone, just because now that Miranda has that rapport and connection with the spirits before an investigation.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take usually sometimes as long as 30 minutes, sometimes just to go in, and I'll sit down. And it's funny because on all 3 floors, I know I could probably come into the building and just talk, because obviously the same rules that apply in the other world does not apply here. But I will actually go to each floor and say primarily the same thing, or something tailored specifically to those particular inmates that we know, and jailers that we know are in those areas, and just have a good conversation with them. Because really for us, it is about that relationship, that connection that you make with the history as well as the spirits that are in a location. And we've even found, best practice techniques, because being in here, as long as we're in here each day, both day and night, you really get to conduct true paranormal research, because a one and done type place is great. And you can get trends and stuff if you go back and visit. But hearing what these teams get, seeing what we experience, we can really say, hey, it's best if you have a smaller team, or, hey, it's best if when you're in this location, try doing this. Obviously do your own techniques, because that's going to bring different things out, but go in there and try these certain things that we know has worked, and then let us know. And so we've actually been able to kind of trend some things and do some of our own research just from these teams that have come in, and based on the personalities and stuff of the spirits that we've had contact with in the past.
And you're talking about the community is not a massive community. When you brought the idea up, the mayor went for it, which was great. But what was the community like about doing the paranormal investigation part? Because I know some people, even here now, we live in history in the UK, but there's still people that feel doing the paranormal is something that we should be leaving alone. And I know, like in America, there's a lot more smaller towns, smaller communities that bind together. What was their response when they found out this is what you're going to be doing at the Scott County Jail?
Well, we knew that there was probably going to be some trepidation from some of the members of the community at large. So really, and we talked about that. And the reason we started our business the way we did was to become very history facing and history driven. So we didn't put out there initially that we were doing after dark things, right? The very first thing that we did was we built, Miranda built the website. And if you look at it, you see the history first, right? We put out there that we needed items for the museum, that we needed donations, or that if anybody wanted to put things on loan. So we really got out there first that we were putting out a history museum. And then we start peppering in the after dark events, ghost tours, flashlight tours, lantern walks, and stuff like that, and then gradually built up to the paranormal. So by the time people realized really what we were doing, we have the backing for the museum side, and then it just became a natural extension to that. So it was very well calculated, because being a part of the paranormal community, we know what's out there, right? We know, and we have pretty much our ear to the ground to a lot of that stuff. And so the history first, and then we built on that.
And we were not deceptive in any way. Whenever we did our presentation, we were upfront and said the face, because again, we are one of those small towns that you mentioned. We are in the middle of the Bible Belt here, very religious community, very, long memories, deep scars when it comes to talking about some of the history and stuff. And so when we approached the town and the mayor, we said, the face of the building is going to be the history, the face of the business, but the economic driver and the engine is going to be the paranormal, because that is going to be. And so when you walk into the jail, there's no in your face. No, we have flyers right there in the front entryway that talks about our after dark, but you don't know until you're getting ready to go up the stairs, that there's any indication of hauntings here at the jail, because at that point we have where our teams sign. And then we have a sign that says, "Did you know the historic Scott County Jail is haunted?"
Mhm.
And so we've had more people at that point that either come back and they say, "Hey, did you know your building's haunted?" Or they'll say, "Hey, do you do anything haunting with the building?" And so we just try to do that. One is respect, and then two, it just really works as far as putting it out there to really get a diverse audience
Right.
here.
Mhm. And since you've been doing it, I know you guys do a lot within the community as well, not just the paranormal, not just the museum, but and we'll go into that in a moment. But do you feel that you've grown a bond with your community there now, since you've grown the business? Like,
Oh,
people
yeah.
built that track, and you've got good friendships with them now. Then,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so we have a very robust gift shop. So we're always wearing our branded merchandise and stuff out in the community. And so people will stop us and ask about the jail. They'll ask about Sally, the jail cat. She's our little mascot. So
we'll get to her in a minute.
it's funny. I was at Walmart, several months ago, and I was wearing all it said was our historic Scott County Jail sweatshirt, right? And I don't know this person at all, but they stopped me and said, "Hey, how's your cat?" And it took me a minute. I'm like, "Oh, Sally. Oh, Sally's great." Didn't ask about how we were doing, but everybody has to know how Sally's doing. And then so yeah, I think we've formed some really good, a good reputation here. One, for the fact that, we are providing revenue for the community. And that's what we told the mayor. It's like, it's not just going to be us that's going to benefit financially from this, right? The building is going to be preserved. The money that we make is going to go back into the restoration. The town is going to get revenue as well, because we pay the rent to the town. And then other industries are going to profit, like hotels and restaurants and other businesses, because we're bringing that paranormal tourism in. So that was a very big driving factor as well, to say, listen, it's not just going to be us, but we're helping the entire community. And that's what was really receptive to them.
Yeah, and with the mayor's vision on this, they got a tourism grant back in 2017, a $75,000 tourism grant that came in and painted the walls, fixed the heating and cooling, and then also the windows in here. And it was really kind of one of those. It was so important to preserve the building, but he didn't know how he wanted to, or exactly what they wanted to do. And so once we came in and presented our plan for this, showing that all these other industries and stuff would be able to benefit from this, he said it was a no-brainer. He said, "I know exactly that's what I want to do." And so we're just very fortunate that he took a chance on us, and shared the vision that we have.
Yeah, it's been great. And you're talking about the museum. You've collected quite a fair bit of stuff for the museum. Do you both have a particular favorite item that you've got in the museum that you can tell us about?
They're all unique. So we have some different things. One of the cool things, one of the cooler things to me is we have a very robust selection of what we call shanks and shivs. And these are tools that inmates would make out of things that they found in their cells, or like broom handles, or razors that they would whittle down and make into a point, or plastic, they're plastic spoons, right? They would whittle down the end to make it a sharp point. So one of the things that we have is these plaster balls, and they're about the size, a little bit bigger than a golf ball, and the inmates would peel the paint off of their cells, and they would rub tissue paper and toothpaste together, and just keep making this ball and keep rubbing this ball until it became harder than a golf ball. And they would put it in a sock and swing it around and use it as a weapon. So that to me is one of the more unique items that we have here.
I've got several, but I would probably have to say our jailhouse toilet hooch is probably one of my favorites, because we did have a former inmate, which found out is I am kin to, but have a former inmate that was in here that when he was in here, he was known for making hooch, which hooch is jailhouse alcohol. And so essentially they would save their fruit cocktail, their white bread. They would take a container, they would strain it through a sheet, and then they would store it. And after about 2 weeks, they had a pretty high percentage of alcohol. And so I reached out to him and asked if he would make us some. And so he made us some out of some white bread and some peaches, brought it in. And so, of course, we have to burp it about every 2 weeks because keep it from exploding. But he comes in and, he's a very big supporter of us. And it's a great conversation piece because that was something of common jail life here at the jail. Mm-hmm. And so being able to share those stories, we're all the time trying to think outside the box and come up with new exhibits. Mm-hmm. And just to kind of tag on to that, my other favorite is probably our drunk tanks. Even though we've sort of turned those into an exhibit, and it's a working exhibit because they were originally painted drunk tank pink. And they are our they are our current restrooms. And so people can come in and actually use a jailhouse toilet and learn about the jailhouse life at that point. Mm. I guess mine are kind of toilet based.
I guess.
Favorites, I guess.
And, I know that you both, been doing a lot of history into the jail. Mm-hmm. What was it like back when it was the jail? Like, what were the prisoners? What were the officers or sheriffs what were they like towards the inmates? Was it one of those jails where, the inmates were mistreated because of their crime? Or, do you know the history of how the prisons were run back at that time?
Well, again, Nando, you got to remember that we're in a very small community, a very rural community here. So, we have stories of brothers arresting brothers wow. because one was a deputy and one was a drunk, right? So really everybody knew each other. So if you were arrested on Saturday night, you may be at church with these people on Sunday, right, in the pews next to the guy that just arrested you. We do have some stories of inmate on inmate violence where, people would get upset at one another and they'd kind of go off. We do have examples of jailer on inmate violence, not very prolific, but we also have stories here of even our sheriffs being shot right outside our front door here. I mean, right behind my laptop, a sheriff was killed in 1925, and that's still an unsolved murder. So there's a lot of history surrounding the building from a variety of historical standpoints. But overall, I think this was a place where inmates were treated probably a little bit better than you would at some of the other locations, simply because everybody knew you. Everybody knew everybody.
And it really just depended. I mean, when you look at how long from 1904 up until 2008 when things closed, it really changed with who was in charge. And so you have some stories of some sheriffs that ruled with an iron fist, and you didn't want to mess with them. And then you had others. One of the things I always tell on our tours, 1 year it could be like Mayberry, and the next year it could be mayhem. And it really just depended, because we have stories at times where they were able to actually leave the inmates' cell doors open on the third floor. And that would depend on who was in there and who was in charge. And then other times it was just like, you better be in your cell and not be out, because you could, something could happen. So it really just kind of depended on what era and who was in charge as to whether that was the case.
Absolutely. And with that said, you're talking about the different people in charge. Have you picked up the spirits of these people within the jail? Like, are they still there, or is it more inmates that you pick up a vibe from? What would you say?
We think that the spirit of Sheriff Ellis is very prevalent here. He was the sheriff that was killed outside the front door in 1925. We do think he's still here. And talking about some of our sheriffs seem to get different responses. We had one sheriff here who in 1986 was arrested on federal drug charges because he was using his station as the sheriff to run drugs through the county. So we found that if you mention his name, then different responses seem to happen. We've had deputies killed in the line of duty. If you mention some of their names, you seem to get different responses. So just talking about them seems to get some different things, as well as we have several inmates that the spirits of several inmates that we've communicated with that we're pretty confident we're inmates here.
Yeah, it just kind of ranges the gamut there.
Yeah.
It's really cool because, it's one of those things, you never know who you're going to get when you do that. I mean, we have been able to go and we get some incredible footsteps, especially on the third floor and the east side of the Jailer's Walk tends to get a lot more, or the center part, and then also the stairs. And we've been able to, because it'll happen when we're given tours sometimes, other times it happens during investigations, but we've been able to kind of pinpoint that. We believe that's a residual jailer that when they would go up, I don't know if it's one particular jailer or if it is multiple jailers, but it's around the time that they would do head count or around the time that they would check on the people in the cells. So we've been able to kind of go through and I mean, it doesn't happen every time, but, sit down and see if we can figure that out. So, we've been able to get some trends and stuff from that.
Super. Now, there is a video that I want to play from the jailhouse security cameras. So I'm just about to play a clip. If you guys concentrate on the door on the left-hand side towards the back of the room, but towards the end, there's a funny moment because even the cats had some experiences at this jail.
Yeah. Let me set it up. Yeah, let me set it up real quick for you, Nando, just so people can understand. Okay. So the door behind us right here, this is the door to our gift shop. Now this used to be a cell. And so the door is steel. It's about a 250-pound door. It is designed to swing shut. It is not designed to open because it was a cell door. It's designed to swing shut. So we have it propped open right now. And so it is our gift shop. And Sally, our jail cat, loves to go in and lay on our sweatshirt and our merchandise. So at night when we're not here, we shut that door so she can't get in. So the clip that we're about to see is from our security camera in the gift shop. And it happens at about 5 a.m. Obviously nobody is here.
Yeah. And if you think about it too, we always show the teams, there's no seam there with the door. The door where it is a cell door, it's inlaid and it's shut within there. And so it would be hard or really nearly impossible for Sally, who is a 15-pound cat, to pick that door open because there's no place for her to grab a hold of it to open the door.
No, definitely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the clip and then we'll have a quick chat after about it as well. There we go. You can see she wasn't happy as soon as that door closed on her. Like, what's happening here?
That's her I'm pissed off, what just happened, meow. But another interesting thing about that is because the door actually opens 3 times, just the first time it's just a little bit, and when it shuts, because it's steel on steel, you can hear the reverb, right? The third time, which it opens the furthest, when it shuts, you expect it to have a higher reverb because it opened the widest, but it doesn't. It hits and it stops, like something is holding it from the reverb, which to us is pretty fascinating.
Yeah. And I mean, it's crazy because with that, like Kris had said, we've got the door propped open right now. And Sally, throughout the day, Sally will go in and out there on the tours. And of course, when we have the investigators, she lays in there when we're in there. And so she has no aversion to being in there. But from this video, you can clearly hear that she is extremely upset. And that went on up until we opened the door that morning when we came in. And then for about the remainder of the day, she was really upset, would not come in, just meowing like crazy. She was letting us know she was really unhappy about that.
Yeah. Maria's just said, did you see the manifestation in front of those two mannequins before the door opened? So
I have not.
Maybe we'll have a look at that afterwards and see if there is something there. But that is a big door. Like I was saying to you before we started, that you can hear how heavy the door is. So that takes a lot of energy for a spirit to be able to do that. Do you think that could have been one of the sheriffs walking through then, knowing, just doing its rounds then, like?
Well, kind of the theory that I have come up with is Sally is in here all the time, right? And she's in here day and night. And I think the spirits really enjoy her being here. And she sometimes wants to go into the gift shop when the door is shut, right? I think it was something opening the door to let her in, to say, here, Sally, go ahead and go in, because that's where you want to go. Because it's never happened before or since. But, Sally wasn't harmed in any way. We put her on a live the next day to show everybody Sally's perfectly fine. But for me, that's the theory, that it was something trying to help Sally get into the room.
Yeah, I agree with Kris. I definitely don't think it was anything malicious. She's never had anything harmful to her. She interacts with stuff all the time, especially going up on the third floor. She'll act like she's playing with stuff. Same here. She'll, the corridor back there, you'll see her watch things move. So personally, I just think that very possibly could have just been letting her in to, because she was wanting in there. Not really sure the reason why they opened the door, but I definitely don't think it was anything malicious or harmful.
Oh, no, I wouldn't say it was anything sinister, because the third time when it opened widely, when you see the cat walk through, it was like the door was held open long enough for her to walk through in a safe way, so they didn't catch her tail. Do you know when you let your dog in, you always look to make sure you let your pet in, and you're looking to make sure they're in before you close the door? Yeah. And that's what it looked like on the third time. It was like they allowed enough time for the cat to come through before the door shut again. And that, I found, that was the fascinating part for me. Like seeing it open a little bit, I was like, oh, this is good. But then the third one, but it was like the door was actually held open, like you would when someone's walking past you. And I thought that was an amazing bit of evidence. And 5 o'clock in the morning. Well, I think it was just after 5:10 in the morning. That was cool. And it just shows. Do you have the cameras running all the time in the jail?
We actually have 3 that run all the time. The one in the gift shop. There's one over here by our drunk tank, and then one in the first room that we have here, which is our where we take tickets and stuff. So our financial transactions are done in that room. There's a couple of reasons why we don't have cameras throughout running all the time. The first is all of these walls are 3 feet by 4 feet by 5 feet thick, solid concrete. So we would have to have a Wi-Fi unit on every floor, because the one down here, it doesn't reach really past where we're sitting. And it's sitting over there on the wall. So we would have to have 3 different Wi-Fi systems to do that. And then 2, for us, we feel that when paranormal investigators come in and they rent the facility, it's truly theirs solely. And so for us to have video cameras running while a paranormal investigation team in here, we just haven't felt like that would be something that we want to do right now. So to answer your question very long-windedly, we just have 3 running down here on this first floor.
Yeah. And I mean, as long as the investigators are respectful and don't give us a reason, to need to watch what they're doing. We like to give them their privacy and their space to be able to do that. That's not to say that at some point in time, we may not have some up and running as things happen to see what we capture on our own, but we completely leave that to the investigators, for that.
Maybe in the future, maybe do like a live feed where the cameras just run while everyone's not there, and people can just tune in and just put their comments, seeing what's going on. Because like I said, that bit of evidence with the door opening, that shouldn't open a big door like that, and how heavy it is a great piece of evidence. And I think people would love to just sit there and watch, and, be an investigator from home, like trying to catch stuff. Absolutely brilliant. With the jail, it's not just about the paranormal. It's a lot about the history, but also you do a lot for the community as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the stuff that I know you've done, like the biking? You've got bikes, haven't you? Like, so do you want to tell us a bit about what you do for the community as well, and how you get them involved?
Yeah, so we're always looking for cool and unique things to do to bring the community in and make it accessible. We're actually getting ready to have our 3rd annual Blessing of the Bikes event, which we do partner with the Christian Motorcyclists Association from the neighboring community, because we don't have a local one of those, but they do come in and bring bikers from all over. It gives them the opportunity to come here to the jail. And it's kind of a throwback to kind of the importance of the jailhouse ministry that they did have here. Also, we do host motorcycle rides. We're hoping to do more of those this year, where we partner with other local business, like restaurants, as well as other jails that are like ours within other counties. And so we call it our Bars to Bars ride, where we have people come in, they get a tour of the jail, and then they get a nice little motorcycle ride. I know Kris has worked on several others with your escape room.
Yeah, we have an escape room upstairs. So I designed and built that. It's upstairs on our maximum security level. So you get 60 minutes to try to escape from our maximum security level. So that's always a lot of fun, bringing in kind of a different clientele. We partner with other historical societies in neighboring communities. We're members of several chambers of commerce in different communities as well. And we do a lot of different outreaches with other historical sites. And then we do different presentations and talks as well. So there's a lot that we participate in, one, to try to bring recognition to the jail and to Huntsville, and then really to bring more recognition to historic preservation through these after dark programs.
Yeah. And school groups, we get a lot of school groups that come in. We're hoping some of them are summer camp school groups. Some of them are just the local communities. We're looking to reach out to the homeschool community and different people that, we're not necessarily talking about the haunted aspect of things, but talking about the criminal justice aspect and, just true crime. True crime is something that's really big right now. So really talking about just the culture and stuff that goes on with inside of a jail. So, we do a lot of that and have a lot of interest from our school groups.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great because everyone, even, I think it's important to educate the young ones, so they, the history is beautiful. In certain ways. And it's just great that you two are keeping that alive for everyone now, and, sharing that. Which is great. What's your, have you got any other ideas for the jail, or where you want to see the jail heading? Like, have you got another goal for the jail that you want to hit?
Well, we actually, because the town is so happy with what we've been doing, there's another building about 100 feet from here. It was an old bank building that was built in 1909. It was actually in use up until COVID. So it's been sitting vacant for about 2 years. And the town just officially voted to allow us to have that building as well. So we're going to be shifting a little bit from here. We'll be moving our gift shop and our ticketing and such into that bank building, and kind of open more space, more museum space and exhibit space and investigation space here inside the jail. And then what we really want to do is we're taking our outreach to other properties, other locations. Last year, we partnered with the historic village of Rugby, which is a utopian village that was formed in 1880. It's about 20 minutes from here. And they allowed us to, because of our approach, they've allowed us to run all of their after dark programming there, which is something that they haven't had before. So we're taking our approach of historic preservation and after dark programming. We're taking that to that location. So we have other plans for this year as well to kind of move into different elements of historic preservation.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about the bank building that Christy mentioned is it's a sister building to this one. I mean, it's made out of the exact same sandstone, and it's got the original teller bars and all of that inside there. Plus, at one point in time, it was also used as a clinic and not just a bank. So it's going to give us the opportunity to be able to go in and not just share the history that pertains with the jail here, but really expand our tours and talk more about Scott County in general, specifically Huntsville. And so just kind of talk about it from another perspective. And as she said, opening up, new rooms and new opportunities for investigators. It's really exciting. I think that shifting all of this over is something that is just going to open up a lot of opportunities for us. That's, going to take a minute to kind of get that finessed and set up just right. But we're really excited to be bringing that to our portfolio of locations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the passion that you have for what you're doing is always going to be successful because you've got the passion, you've got the ideas, and the way you approach it is absolutely brilliant. So no doubt it's going to be as successful as what you're doing now. It's going to just get bigger, and
Thanks,
you're helping the community, which is great, but with the community, when, when you speak to people and they ask you what you do and you say you're a paranormal investigator and, and things like that, being in a small community like that, have people approached you and wanting to know more and then sort of eased into coming in and doing the after dark tours? And what have they come out with? Like, have they witnessed anything that have opened their eyes to the paranormal field at all?
Yeah, so really kind of how the progression of our guests evolves. We have people that'll come in to day tours, right? They'll take a day tour, just kind of walk around for the museum aspect of it. They ask if it's haunted. We say yes. Then they kind of move on to wanting to do one of our flashlight tours. So we come through here with a flashlight. We tell them the history as well as the ghost stories. And then that really progresses to a more guided ghost hunt, right? And so that's really, we've seen that a lot here at the jail where guests will go through that progression. And because of that, we've experienced different things. They've experienced things that they didn't think were possible. One of the best examples that we have of a shadow figure picture was actually taken by one of our guests who really had no interest in the paranormal aside from coming and doing a ghost hunt as a girls trip. So she just happened to snap 3 pictures in our drunk tank. And in the third one, she captured this great example of a shadow figure, one that we cannot debunk, and the shadow figure that we see here quite often. And so she was able to capture it on her camera phone. And so I think the feedback through those type of initiatives that we're doing has been extremely positive. And it's really getting the word out that one, we're here, that we're doing something different, and then holistically, it's bringing a different clientele into the community that wouldn't otherwise be here.
And getting a whole other clientele interested in the history of it.
Of course.
One of the biggest things that, and I consider it one of the biggest compliments, is when people come in, especially our investigators, because we love our investigators because those are the ones that are really helping us keep the doors open. But they'll come in and they'll say, I came for the paranormal, but I just got lost in the history. And I learned so much and could have spent so much more time just learning about this history and immersing myself into it. And I consider that a huge compliment because we're not just coming in and saying, hey, here's this cool building. Here's this creepy atmosphere. Go in, have fun, let us know what happens. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure we're very protective of our history. Mm-hmm. We're very interested in learning, and we're learning something every day. We're always excited when somebody comes in and shares new stories with us. Mm. But to be able to share that and share that on international level, have people like you and the folks over in the chat room there talking about Sheriff Ellis and talking about Jerome Boyett and sharing those stories that people might not ever know, because we are such a small community here. That's really keeping that history alive and helping everything to grow with what we're doing. So yeah, we love it.
Yeah, and I'll expand on that just a little bit. Aside from the fact of paranormal investigators coming in and saying that they enjoy the history, I think we've also had a fair number of people from the community come in and take our flashlight tours or our lantern tours throughout the entire town of Huntsville. And I've had on several occasions where people say, I was born here, but I did not know all of this stuff. I did not know that this happened in the courthouse, or I did not know that, Jesse James was here for a while and that sort of stuff, and I think that's the truest compliment that we can get is, we were so, as Miranda says, particular about how we wanted to approach the history and get that narrative out there. And I think that people really appreciate that. And I think that's why, people have been really giving us positive feedback on what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And I think also, because I've had the pleasure of speaking to you guys quite a few times, and I've watched over the years, because I think we first got talking during the COVID period.
Yeah,
where that's the first time, and we've seen things develop, and I think it's just the way you present yourself to everything that you do is all with respect, and it's just been a pleasure to watch the growth of it all. We've had fun watching you guys doing what you do.
thank you.
It's been great. There's a few questions I want to just touch on in the audience that they've asked.
Please.
But one thing I did want to ask before, being there a lot of the times, spirits must be familiar with you guys now. Are they ever familiar to the point that you've had an experience where they've come home with you at all? Where they leave the jail, and do you feel that someone's come home with you?
For me personally, no. And we kind of make it clear that this is where they belong. This is where they're comfortable. And so for me personally, no, never anything has come home with me.
No, me neither. I mean, it's always really interesting when you have a team here, and I go up to lock up after the team, and I'm sure Kris can agree when she's doing like some of the night tours and stuff too. The energy changes, the vibe changes. And there's times, because I'm here at 4:00 in the morning, by myself locking up, and I go in and it's like, what were they doing? This place just feels so different. And sometimes it feels creepy. Now, of course, I've never had anything follow me home or anything like that. I'm not gonna lie, I was concerned about that because, when you do an investigation, the paranormal hangover and stuff, but then it's like, when you're in it every single day, it's like, how is that going to be, when that becomes your life? That's
the thing. You're there. This is like you were saying, it's great to be able to go to these different locations, and you might get one opportunity. And it's like Sarah, after every investigation we do, you'll see Sarah walking by going, you're not allowed to come home with me. You got to stay here, and everything. But where you're there 24/7, it's during the day and at night, it's just like, do they grow that attachment to you? Like you're part of their family now, like whatever's there still.
I'm sure it's possible,
but not to the point of coming home with us. But when we come in, it is definitely like you're coming into an environment that's welcoming you. And I think because when we first got the keys to the building, we had them for about 2 months before we opened, and we were in here every day cleaning. And during that time, we were talking to our spirits, telling them who we were, what we were going to do, how we were going to bring recognition to the jail and really help preserve the jail. And I think because of that, we've almost become like a team, right? So Miranda and myself and our spirits, we're 100% protective of them, and I think they're very protective of us as well. I think they see that with some teams that come in that may try to take a little bit of a different approach. Our spirits will let them know, listen, you're not going to disrespect anything that's here. And, for me, it's almost like a comfort to know we've got a team here, which is kind of neat.
And one of the things that I always talk to our spirits about when I come in is we have our ground rules here at the jail. This is their space. We're just the stewards of their space, and we're just opening it up for people to come in. We're not intruding on that. But we have our ground rules that they are not, they can't go into our space just like they, so, but I also tell them that it's like the teams themselves, when they come in, are going to set their own rules and set their intentions. There's 3 major things. I won't get into that, but 3 major things that I do tell our spirits that you cannot do, regardless of what the intentions that the teams set. But really, we leave that up to the teams. And like Kris said, it's like when you come in here, I think it's the type of environment they're being heard. They're getting the opportunity to share their stories and to interact with people and to have people leave talking about these experiences. And I think, honestly, they seem to enjoy that.
And not so much ground rules also for the spirits, but we really set ground rules for the teams too. I mean, we are very stringent about what they can and cannot do here. The very first thing is we do not have demons here. We do not have entities that are going to be any type of evil or malicious. That is not here. And we tell them flat out, if you mention it on anything that you do, we will sue you for libel and slander. We have our lawyers on standby. We do not tolerate it, and it will not be, you will not leave this building saying anything other than, we have some spirit activity. And so
whatever.
Yeah, whichever. But, nothing demonic or anything like that will leave these doors. And then, we set other ground rules, no Ouija boards, no seances, no crossing over or anything like that.
No sage.
Yeah, nothing like that. And so we're very stringent. Sometimes people won't come because of that, but that's fine with us. Yeah. I mean, we would rather respect the integrity of our spirits and the integrity of our location than lose sleep over losing a team that didn't want to come because they don't want to follow our rules.
Yeah, we've even turned down some that have offered big money and big exposure from the YouTuber perspective, but they're demon chasers. Yeah. Now, not saying, just my personal belief, I'm not saying demons don't exist. I do believe demons exist. I do believe they are rare. They are not here in this location. We are a jail. We did have some evil people. We had some that were arrested that were not, that just made a bad decision. So you get all kinds when you're in a jail. But as far as a demonic entity hanging out in the closet of our building or whatever, we don't have it. And we actually make the teams acknowledge that. And if we find out that someone has done that, as Kris said, we will take action against it, because we had to fight a hard battle and put our integrity on the line with the community, that we were not going to do anything to disparage.
Right.
It's not just that though. It's the community as a whole. If someone goes in, it can affect not just yourselves, like financially, but the economy around you guys, where it's small.
Yes.
If unfortunately, I've had this conversation many times before. These YouTubers that want to put demonic entities in everything they do,
right?
Yes.
But it's not like that, and it has a bigger effect. And I can imagine you guys would feel that a lot more, because, like you're saying, everyone knows each other. It's not big enough to be able to hide away from something like that.
Right.
It is hard.
Yeah. And we take pride in the reputation that we've built, not just for the jail, but for Soul Sisters Paranormal and for Ghost Biker Explorations. We take extreme pride in what we've built. And, I'll just be frank, we're not going to lose that because some YouTuber wants 1 million subscribers. And they're not going to use our building as a platform to come out and say, oh, we found another location that's demonic, when we absolutely know that is not the truth.
Yeah. And I mean, we could, if we wanted to. I mean, I always joke and say demons are in vogue right now. And the thing is, it's like, we could sit there and say that we could have some of these big YouTubers come in, and we could sit there and say, this is going on, and we would probably sell more tickets and probably book out more stuff, but it's not worth it, because that's lying. There's no demonic activity here. And as Kris said, for the YouTuber, it's about the clicks and it's about the subs, and they get money and stuff off of that. But in the end, the location and the community are the ones that's left, cleaning up the fallout from it, because there is fallout from it, because they're setting a reputation as well for the location. And if the location can't fulfill that reputation, it's just an awful cycle.
Yeah. So
No, I do agree with what you're saying. You know, money's great. Don't get me wrong. Everyone would say it, but you know, building a reputation and keeping that reputation honest and, you know, pure. That I think that's more important than
absolutely.
You know, as you're saying, with all the clips and all the hard work that you've done as well to have not being rude, but I'm going to be quite someone stupid that wants the views.
Exactly.
To ruin everything that you've done and ruin your reputation in that community as well. You know,
exactly.
It's not worth it, is it? It's not.
And when you're in a place like this too, we're constantly having to answer to the question, because being in the Bible Belt, we're having to answer to the question, what are we talking to? What are we dealing with? And so there's already a re-education process that goes into what we do. And the fact that we're not coming in demon chasing, we're not coming in, you know, having seances and conjuring up spirits and such. So there's already that we have to look at. And if we start letting people come in and start, you know, saying there's demons here and this and that, it would really be, would be a devastating thing. Here in this community.
Yep.
And it would be a domino effect, not just for the
exactly
jail, but like you were saying, Soul Sisters.
And
even
rugby and Ghost Biker.
And
yeah.
So no, that's great. So what I'm going to do is just head over to the audience and ask a few questions that they've had. So we've got Nick. He's asked a question. Does the sheriff move behind as a lot of movement back and forth? I think he likes the fame as say, I'm here. So yeah, do you find that there's a lot of movement when you're doing these sort of things, that there's a lot going on behind you? Well, I've seen you, Miranda, every so often you're doing this. And Kris looks over, so it's got to be quite frequent then.
There's always activity here. Absolutely. There'll be times we'll be sitting here and you'll hear something run upstairs or on the back stairwell. The location behind Miranda here, our drunk tanks are just behind these bars. And that is the location where the shadow figure of Richard, what we believe is Richard Ellis, was captured. So we do think that he does like to hang out back there, especially there and on this first floor. So it very well could be that he's just kind of back there because he knows we're talking about him.
And they get curious because I know sometimes we'll do shows. I know I've done my Ghost Biker shows sometimes from the booking room over here to my left. And there will be somebody that will sometimes walk past from the visitation room throughout the door here. And sometimes I think it's out of curiosity. Other times I think that they know we're talking about them and it's like, hey, just going to make an appearance, you know?
Yeah. They got to get their 5 minutes of fame, haven't they?
Absolutely.
So, hey, I'm here still as well.
Yep.
Great. Cheryl, she has asked, do you have any cranky spirits?
We do, depending on the team and depending on the night. So, you know, you have some that will say, get out, not in any type of a malicious manner. But basically it's like, get out. I don't want to talk tonight. We have one spirit up on the third floor who particularly likes the ladies. If it's an all-female team or if a solo investigator will go in there and it's a female, go into that cell on her own. He likes to get a little handsy. So we picked out some very interesting ones, and he's one of them.
And we're a jail too. And so being that we're a jail, I mean, you had some people that didn't want to be in here and that maybe didn't like authority. And so, you know, I mean, we're not full of Casper, you know, but we're also not, you know, so we kind of have a variety, but we do have, in typical Tennessee fashion, these spirits in here, they like to talk and they like to tell their story.
Yeah.
So
and different trigger things work. You know, as Miranda said, we're in the Bible Belt here. So playing Amazing Grace or a song that is, you know, has religious connotations behind it tends to get different results. Like I said, an all-female team gets different results than an all-male team. And so we've actually really been able to pick up on these things. And it's kind of a unique just a unique study.
Corrections officers.
Yeah,
and
corrections
police
officers. Yeah. Corrections officers that when they come in have a very different experience than those that have no background in law enforcement. So that's been unique as well. So we've been able to pick up on some very interesting things. So if we know a group of corrections officers are coming in, we'll say, try this, talk about these things. If we know an all-female team is coming in, go to the third floor, sit in this cell, ask these questions. So, and it tends to get some interesting results because of it.
We even have some that maybe some people who, like I said, made some not so great decisions that have spent some time behind bars, and we've had a couple people on teams that have come in and said, hey, I got arrested for a DUI one night, long time ago. And I went and I had the best conversation in the drunk tank. And, it's always interesting when people can pull on those personal experiences, whether it be their job or family member who served time or what have you. It's always interesting to see because it seems like anyone in the service field or that was a former inmate tends to get much different activity than somebody that's, just.
They have that connection, don't they? They have the connection from what they've done to what the Spirit's done, which is great for them to experience that. Awesome. And you were saying about, it's always been a religious county, very. With the inmates, did they, when they were in prison there, would they have some form of a religious character that would come in to try and help them, would they have that there at the jail?
Yeah. So the jail did have chaplains at one point in time. They actually our new sheriff actually just revived that this year. But they did have chaplains. They also had a very robust jailhouse ministry at one point in time. They actually used to stand out in the street and preach up to the inmates who were on the second and third floor. And there wasn't very good windows at the time, and they would throw Bibles up there. That was at one point in time. They also, in the area back behind me, where the drunk tanks are, that was one of the areas in the early 1900s where they would have their jailhouse ministry, which would have also been the jailer's quarters living room area. And then just, again, a lot of these inmates, we always joke and say if they were in on a Saturday night, they might be in church on a Sunday. So it was something that was really important to them. You didn't really mess with their religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if they were going to church on the Sunday after a naughty night, they'll be in church with their head down,
Yeah.
But you're saying that, I don't know if you would know this, but, when you're talking about the third floor, how it was opened up to maximum security inmates, rapists and murderers, were the community or were, these religious characters as forgiving to them as they would have been to the people on the second floor because of their crime was a lot worse than these moonshiners and things like that? Were they treated different, do you know?
Well, it depends on the crime. I mean, we've actually had 7 lynchings from the jail where the community members were just tired of waiting for the criminal justice system, and they busted in the door and ran upstairs, grabbed the inmate that they wanted, and either hung them out back or took them out about a half mile from here and shot and killed them. So it really depended on the crime. Any crime against a law enforcement officer, all bets are off, right? So you really weren't forgiven. Any crimes against a child, all bets are off. You really weren't forgiven for that. Murder, same thing. So it really just depended on the time frame and the crime.
And it kind of depended on too who you murdered.
Yeah,
because around here, a lot of people is related, and I always joke and I'll say that that scars run deep and memories run long around here, and so and the time was different, but it depended on who you did a crime against. Because if you did a crime against somebody that had a big family or had a big connection, they could round up a posse real quick, mask up, come in, overtake the jailer, and get their inmate because there would be so many of them,
Mm-hmm.
and same with defense. We do mention an example of this would be our sheriff that did get involved with the drug cartel. And so it depends on who you talk to. A lot of people say today, because he had, such a big family and he was actually very well respected in the community, that if he was still alive, he would possibly still get elected as sheriff here.
Wow.
Now, in today's time. But then also you have some that says, hey, he was set up. It really depends. And so we do have to take very special care sometimes too when we're telling our stories, and we stick straight to the newspapers and stick to those accounts.
History, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as you're saying, because of the bloodline can still be alive, you got to be careful.
And most are.
Oh yeah, most of them are. Yeah.
And that's the thing. But you look at a lot of these documentaries when they're talking about specific murders and rapists in a small community. You see the community very quickly tied together, and they don't want them there. And and that's why I asked the question, because you can see it from these documentaries. They weren't forgiven, not because they didn't believe in their religion and forgiveness, but because of the crime.
Yeah,
it was just like, it was something that there's no going back now. You've done it.
Exactly.
That's it. So yeah. Jill has asked, was there an area just for women in the jail, and do you get different types of activity there?
Yes, absolutely. So up on our second floor, one of our cells was designed specifically for women trustee inmates. And on the third floor, one of the cells was designed specifically for maximum security women inmates, and very different responses in both of those areas. So for example, a friend of ours, he's a paranormal investigator, and on our opening day, we had an open house, and he came and to support us, and he walked up into the women's cell on the second floor, and something grabbed his shoulder and spun him around like it wanted them out, like they wanted a man out of the women's cell. When all male teams go into that cell, they get different responses. They get different activity. They feel differently. Even on our flashlight tours, when they're not even related to the paranormal in any way, when we walk in, men seem to say, this room just feels colder, or there's something different about this area. So yeah, great question. Thanks, Jill.
Yeah. And we also, we always tell people, to try these things. But one thing you really have to keep in mind is that each of these rooms had different uses with each administration. And so because it was a women's cell, like on the second floor for a long time, it was also the work release cell. And so, if you go in there and try something, we can only give recommendations of best practices from what we've experienced. But, you may get something totally different depending on the era that you're speaking with.
Brilliant. Now, just before we finish, I know I've taken a lot of your time, and it's been great to hear about the history of the jail, the paranormal side of things, the community. But guys, that's one location. Now, what about if I told you that these lovely ladies, they also run a haunted village that you can actually stay at? Do you want to give them a bit of an insight? Called Rugby, is that right?
Yes, it's called Rugby, and we don't actually run the village. We run the After Dark programming. So yeah, we've partnered with the nonprofit organization that runs the historic village of Rugby, and like I said, we partnered with them to do all of their lantern walks, their historical walks at night, their guided ghost hunts, and their paranormal investigations. So Rugby was a utopian village that was formed in 1880. It was founded by author Thomas Hughes, who was from England, and he really wanted to come to Tennessee to build what he called a place for the second sons of England. So those who didn't get to inherit all of the wealth and the status of the first sons of British hierarchy. And so it in its heyday in 1884, 85, it had about 500 colonists there, and there were 68 original buildings that were built. 14 of them are still standing, and some of them are used as lodging, so you could actually sleep there. And so we've had a great time since last summer, leading tours, leading paranormal investigations. And it's been a great partnership.
It was a natural fit. Yeah. I mean, this village is set up for ghost walks, and ghost walks are something that's always in season. And so, and just the unique story and history and the hauntings that Rugby has. we were really excited that they said yes, and that allow us to put those stories out there, as well as give the opportunity for people to go and kind of see rugby, under lantern light, or in a different light, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy because when we're talking about it, as you're saying, there's people that are still living there that are experiencing hauntings as we speak. So I think we're going to have to do a part 2 and shift it over to rugby and do that. What was it? Maria, she is saying we are living in the wrong place now. Do you know what? It's funny you said that, because I said that also. But then when they said about the village part, I was like, okay, maybe that's not my sort of thing. Sarah, yeah, me. What was it I said? If I can get the whole team over and stay there, I'll watch from a car or somewhere where I can feel a bit more comfortable. But no, it's absolutely amazing what you guys are doing, not just for the paranormal field, but everything you're doing for your community as well. I think, it's so good that, unfortunately, the paranormal field is built where people think about themselves. It's all about what they want and what they want to achieve. But you guys are coming in such a different way. Preserving the history of these locations is great. A haunted village, crazy but great. Love it. And then you got the bank building to come along soon.
Yep.
Do you know when? Have you got a time frame on when that's going to be opening for you guys?
In the next couple of weeks, we're actually driving down to Georgia tomorrow to pick up some display cases. So we're hoping by the first week of March, we'll be transitioning over. We're just waiting. The technical aspect, like moving our phone and our communication system over there, that's going to take the longest time. But otherwise, the gift shop will move over, and all of our ticketing stuff will be over there. So we're looking at about the first weekend of March,
or at least mid-March, least. Yeah, because logistically, there's some things we've got to work into. So probably mid-March.
So a lot more. So we're definitely going to have you guys back on.
We'd love
do
it.
The rugby talk and get more of the history, because I think people they love the paranormal, but they love the history as well. And I think if we can do more based around the history, it's great. But just before I do let you go, Ghost Biker Explanation, Soul Sisters Paranormal, I just want you guys to give a quick shout out to your paranormal stuff as well. So any of you guys go first. If you want to just let everyone know what's coming up for each of you with your paranormal side, that'd be great.
Sure. So I'm with Soul Sisters Paranormal. So our website is www.soulsistersparanormal.com. We do have some investigations lined up for this year, but mainly I've switched my focus just a little bit to more research-based studies. So I'm actually conducting a national study right now on historic preservation through after dark tourism. So I'm really focusing on those unique tourism aspects that happen after dark that can help preserve historic locations. So I'll be speaking across the country on that this year. So I'm very excited about moving into a more research-based mindset with that right now.
Yeah, and so I'm the Ghost Biker, and you can watch all of my past 6 seasons. We just did the 6th season back in October, and so you can watch all of those past seasons, or my weekly live stream, which is every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. You can see all of that on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page, Ghost Biker Explorations YouTube channel, and www.ghostbikerexplorations.com.
And then the website for the jail is historicscottcojail.com. Also, our Facebook page is Historic Scott County Jail. We also have a jailhouse, and we call it the Jailhouse Informant Podcast. That's every Thursday night at 7 Eastern time. It's live.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And just to let you all know, I've actually got all the links for the jail, Soul Sisters, and Ghost Biker all in the description. So please do go and head over and follow some great podcast information and updates with the jail. So definitely go and give them a follow and, carry on watching what they're doing. But for now, I just want to say thank you for the both of you to taking time out of your day to talk. It's been great because there's been some activity behind you guys throughout the evening. So I'm going to go back in a minute and watch that and try and get some clips. But I look forward to speaking to you in the future. We're definitely going to touch base about doing a podcast about the rugby village. That'd be great. But I just want to thank you both for being part of tonight, and I've really enjoyed catching up with both of you. It's been great.
Thank you, Nando. We really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank
for
you, everybody,
having
for
us.
watching as well.
Yes, thank
Take
you
care,
all.
and I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Great chat. You know, getting the history, not just about the paranormal, but talking about the history, preserving the history of these locations is just as important. And it's always great speaking to Kris and Miranda. So we will definitely do a follow up, and we'll do a talk about Rugby, the village that they also help do the after night tours. So we'll get some more history there. I just want to thank you all, as always, for joining, taking part with your questions, and always supporting us. We are out on location on Friday. We will be in Portsmouth, investigating Murchison Hall. So we will do a few lives from Murchison Hall this weekend. So if you want to catch us, keep an eye out on the page. And hopefully we'll see you guys in the chat and in person if you come to one of our events. But for now, I just want to thank you all, as always, for being part of this journey. It's always great fun to speak to people like Miranda, Kris, and everyone else we talk to, and also get to speak to you guys in the comments. So for now, take care, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.